In this video, we'll be talking with an Amazon FBA aggregator, Olsam, or the full name is Olsam Group. And the speaker from this company, Nish, will share with us what aggregators are looking at when they are acquiring Amazon brands. So in this video, we will be talking with him and asking what Amazon sellers should be putting attention at when they are preparing their business for selling, and how aggregators are evaluating the businesses. In this video, you will also meet Lisette Lees. She works with Amazon sellers and she hosts YouTube videos on KLIK. And also I wanted to mention that this video is sponsored by 3 companies. It's Olsam, it's our guest today in this session as well. Also Zonguru and Getida. Olsam is an FBA aggregator created by ex-Amazonians for Amazon sellers. So as I mentioned earlier, they buy Amazon brands. If you want to sell your brand, check the link below in the description for their contact details. Also, Zonguru is an all-in-one suite for Amazon sellers, perfect at any stage of your Amazon journey. Again, the link and the offer below in the description. And Getida is an audit and reimbursement solution for Amazon sellers. They can help you to get money back from Amazon. And one more time, the Getida's offer and the link below in the description. And now I would like to mention that if you like videos we produce, check and click the links below, thumbs up and subscribe. Don't click these links, these buttons. And now I would like to present you our speaker and the guest, Nish from Olsam.
Let's get ready for Nish Udayakumar at the KLIK Box Summit.
Hi Nish, really happy to have you here. How are you doing?
Hey Lisette, very good, thank you, very good. Thanks for having me. Love the music in the background, it's great.
We're really happy to hear that. So Nish, could you first tell us a little bit about your background and also let us know what does Olsam do in terms of Amazon business sellers, and how do you actually help Amazon sellers?
Yeah, sure. Let me give you a bit of background on myself first. So at Olsam, I work in the investment team at Olsam. I head up the business development team. So I actually spend a lot of time speaking directly with Amazon sellers or anyone looking to sell their business. Prior to Olsam, I worked at Amazon in London, based in the UK. I did a few different things. I started off in sales in Amazon Marketplace, then moved into product management and then into program management across the FBA, Fulfillment by Amazon, and SFP, Seller Fulfilled Prime businesses. But that was across EU. So a couple of things I worked on when I was there, which I'm sure everyone watching is going to be very familiar with. A lot of the FBA restock limit changes. I was working on that for EU. And then for Seller Fulfilled Prime, I was part of the team that launched SFP in the UK in 2017. And then also worked on the SFP changes, which I'm sure a lot of sellers are very familiar with earlier this year that came into place. And then on Olsam, so, as Augustus said at the beginning, we are an acquirer of e-commerce businesses, predominantly Amazon FBA businesses. We were founded last year by 2 brothers, Ollie and Sam, hence the name Olsam. Ollie has a background in sort of private equity and investment banking. Sam used to work at Amazon, so we were at Amazon at the same time in Amazon Marketplace. He was on the team that launched the Amazon Business Marketplace. He also ran his own Amazon business, which he exited before starting this business with Ollie. So, 2 parts, sort of the investment side and then the Amazon operational side. We've got throughout the fabric of the business, there's a lot of ex-Amazon people at Olsam, a lot of Amazon business owners. So, we really try to say that we're operators ahead of being acquirers, because that's where our experience comes from.
Okay, really good. So usually what I do next is I ask to shortly introduce what you would be sharing with us today. But as this format is a little bit different, you have put together some of the main points we will go over today. And actually it will be more in a discussion style. First, can you go over the main points you are here to talk about?
Yeah, sure. So what I really want to get out of this session is a couple of things. So number one is for any Amazon seller or any e-commerce business owner, how can you prepare for your first conversation with an acquirer? So there's actually quite a lot of information out there. Just Google it on how the process works. Like once you have an offer sent to you, LOI is done, what the process looks like. But there's very little information out there on how you can prepare for your first meeting with an acquirer. And it's something that a lot of sellers have mentioned in our conversations. So that's number one. And number two, I also want to try and demystify some of the the acquirer world a little bit, because understandably, for a lot of business owners, acquirers can seem a bit like these corporate machines who are just coming in and buying up a load of businesses. Want to try and attach a face to it, and also take anyone watching through the different teams that you'll meet, often when you're going through the sale of your business, who you'll typically talk to in your first conversation, and also how to prepare. So basically, we've condensed from all of our conversations that we've had with sellers 5 key steps on how you can prepare, which you can see on the screen. I'll go through each of those in more detail. But before doing that, I just wanted to give some context, as I mentioned before, on like who you'll typically meet, how an acquirer is structured. If that sounds all right, to go through first. Oh yeah, so first point is just some context on when you're in your first conversation that you're going to have with an acquirer, like who it is that you're going to be speaking to, before going through these sort of 5 steps. So I'm happy to go through that now, unless you've got any questions on it. So usually when you speak to an acquirer, you'll speak with somebody typically from the investment team from the acquirer, or some acquirers have their own business development teams. So you'll speak with one of them. So I think what will be helpful is maybe just for me to very quickly go through how most acquirers are structured. So this isn't the case for all of them, but typically most acquirers will have an investment team. This is the team that goes out and actually does the acquisitions, speaks directly with the sellers. Then there's an operations team, we call ours the brand ops team or brand operations team. But these are the guys who run the businesses that we buy day to day. So they own the P&L. They do all the stuff on Seller Central, like doing cases and all that kind of stuff, all that fun stuff. There will be a supply chain team who look after inventory management, sourcing products, bring them in from different parts of the world, often in China. There will be most acquirers will have an in-house creative team who do a lot of the videos, the photos. They put these up on the listings to optimize the listings. They'll have copywriters as well. There'll be an ads team that look after PPC. Those will usually be the main teams. Some acquirers will name them slightly differently, and there'll be different types of teams. But those are the basic sort of 5 or 6 different teams that most acquirers will have. And then in your first conversation, you will typically be speaking with the investment team. So that's basically how that works. Trying to split acquirers up into their different components. And then usually the point of the first call is for the acquirer to get to know you, your business, introduce themselves to you, but also for you to get to know the acquirer as well. Remember that this is a two-way thing. When you're selling your business to anybody, you want to make sure that they're actually passionate about the business, have a good understanding of the category, and once they buy the business, can they actually operate it well? And we'll come on to that in a bit more detail later. But that's usually the point of the first call. And this session will go into the 5 key things that you can do to prep for that.
Okay, so if I have a question about the first meeting, should I ask it now, or will I let you to go?
No,
okay,
ask now. I'm happy to answer.
So you asked you told that the first conversation is for aggregator to get to know the business owner, but what should the sellers ask from aggregators to better get to know them in order to understand if the aggregator would be the right partner for them?
Yeah, I mean, this was one of the points I was going to come on to, but I'm happy to go through it now. I think in some of the calls that I've been on with sellers, I think understandably they're looking to listen more from what the aggregator or the acquirer is saying to them, but ask questions. Like this is really key. Like you should be asking a lot of questions to the acquirer as well. So like you're qualifying the buyer. So if you're going via a broker, often you might not speak directly with the acquirer, but make sure that you do try and speak to the acquirer as well. So some examples of questions, just ask for their experience in the brand operations side. Like how big is their team? What categories do they have businesses in? What experience do they have from running Amazon businesses before? Because ultimately, and I'll come on to this in a bit more detail later, but when you sell your business to an acquirer, it's not always they don't just always pay you cash up front. Sometimes offers are structured slightly differently, so there's an earn-out component. And what that means is when after a preset date, if the business is performing well or better than better on that date than what you specified initially, then both the acquirer and the seller both share in the upside as well. So it's in your interest to qualify the buyer so that they are operating the business well for you. So those are just some examples that I would ask if it were my business. So the first thing we've got on there, out of the 5 key things that you need to do to prepare, is getting mentally prepared. So there's a few different things within this. I'd probably divide it up into 3 different questions. So one is, and it's probably the most important one, is do you want to sell your business? Like fundamentally, you need to decide whether you actually want to sell before having these conversations. I don't think there's anything wrong with having an exploratory conversation with somebody just to understand what your business is valued at. But if you're interested in going down this path, it's not like super easy to do. Often, most of these acquisitions take a month, a couple of months, and you don't want to go down that path if you're not actually interested in selling. So first, decide if you actually want to sell your business, and I would I'd probably follow that up with the timing. Is now the right time to sell your business? And I'd split that probably into 2, from a business standpoint, and second from a personal standpoint. So from a business standpoint, it might be the right time to sell your business because maybe this is you do this part-time. Maybe you've got a full-time job and you're selling on FBA part-time. A lot of sellers do this, and you just don't have the time to be able to do it, or you've reached the point where you don't have enough resources left to sort of scale the business up. You need more funding, and it makes sense to sell it. And then the other point was on the personal side. I mean, lots of people will have their own personal reasons for wanting to sell. A lot of sellers I've spoken with, they've been selling on Amazon, on FBA for at least 2 years, and some of the more established ones, they've been selling for 6, 7, 8 years. Like FBA really took off on Amazon maybe 2015. So there are some sellers who've been on FBA selling for longer than that. So it really takes a toll selling for that long. So it might just be that the timing is right in that sense to sell. And then the last point I would say is how do you want to sell your business? Like, what's your sales strategy? So there's kind of 2 ways that you can go about selling your business. So one is you go via a broker, and the second one is you go direct to an acquirer. So on the first point, when you go to a broker is basically a middleman. Like, they have relationships with if it's a big broker, they'll have relationships with most of the large acquirers, and then you're basically leveraging their relationships, the good relationships they have, by going to one broker. They will often put together like a PowerPoint deck on your business, going into the financials, all the details. They'll send it out to a load of acquirers. They will have meetings initially with those acquirers on your behalf, and then sometimes further down the line you might meet the acquirer. That's the first one. The second one, when you go direct to acquirer, you email acquirers directly. Go on their website, you can fill out the contact form, and then you hold those meetings yourself. So they're both totally viable to do both. Like we've acquired businesses through both channels. When you're thinking about which one to do, there are advantages and disadvantages to both. So when you're going on the broker side, the advantage, the main one, is time for you, because they're going to be managing most of the process. You don't need to be you don't need to be super involved as you would be in when you're going direct. they've also got all the relationships already. The disadvantage is that when you sell, the broker will take a cut of the sale price, so you're going to be paying for that. So you need to think about that. When you go direct, the advantage is that you don't have to pay a broker fee, and you're having all the conversations yourself. You're dealing with the acquirers yourself. Disadvantage is the time. Is the time that it takes, and especially if you don't have a good understanding of how the market works, or how much your business is worth, like all the financial side, which we'll come on to in a bit. It can take some time, but I would if it were my business, I would think very carefully about those 3 questions, and on the last one, which is the easiest, which works for me best. And some sellers will do both. They will do broker and they will go direct. So figure out which one works for you.
Okay, I have one question regarding to that. So if a seller is not using a broker, will usually the aggregator help to put together all the information and documents, or is it what you just explained, that in that way the seller has to do everything by himself or herself?
So typically, if you're dealing with a large acquirer, someone who's well-funded, got good resources, they will do most of the legwork. So certainly from I can speak on our behalf. We will do most of the legwork. We put together the P&L, we put together all the financials, but we will work closely with the seller and the accountant, and the seller's accountant, because at the end of the day, the seller knows the business the best, right? So yeah, most acquirers would, if it's a large one, they would do that themselves.
In terms of pros and cons, there are fees involved. So broker, let's say, would take 15% from the buyer. If they go directly to acquire like you, there is no fee. But does it mean that you are paying higher price? You're like, do you know mathematics? Does it make sense?
It's I understand where you're coming from. I think that's one component. The other is it's not just, it doesn't come down purely to those numbers. But firstly, on the maths point you made, I mean, if you're taking it basically like that from a seller's point of view, if you're just looking at the financials and you don't want to pay that broker fee, it makes more sense for them to go to direct to an acquirer. But I mentioned the nuances, right? Like it takes up a lot of time, and if you then value your time, then there's differences there. But also depends on the competition. So if you're going via a broker-led process, they might engage quite a few acquirers. But if you're going direct, you can do the same thing. You reach out to multiple acquirers yourself. So it depends on the competitive dynamics as well. And now moving on to the second key step, which is getting on top of your financials. So this is key. Like this is super, super important. I'm probably going to say that for all of these actually, but this is actually very important. So I'm just going to start by explaining very briefly how acquirers value businesses, because that will help anyone watching understand the other points I'll go through. So when we're valuing a business, and all the acquirers are pretty much doing the same, we look at your P&L, we build out your P&L, which is your income statement, and we look at a few key things on there. So your operating profit, your net profit, things like that. And then we look at something called SDE, which is seller discretionary earnings. It's basically net profit with some add backs into it, like expenses or things like that added back in. And typically, acquirers will look at that look at your historics over the last few years. But when they value a business and give an offer, it will be based on the last 12 months, and it will be a multiple of that SDE that they give as an offer. So, for example, if your business has an SDE of $500,000, then if an acquirer says in their offer we want to pay 3 times that, 3 times $500,000 is 1.5 million, and that's what they will pay. Very simply putting it. And then, as I was mentioning before, offers aren't necessarily always just cash up front. It depends on the deal itself, and some acquirers will have different ways of structuring their deal, and also depends what you want as a seller. But often there'll be an earn-out component as well. So after preset points, they'll if the business is doing well, you will participate in the upside. So it might be that 1.5 million plus more upcoming. So that's basically how the valuation is done.
You mentioned SDE. Can you explain this abbreviation to people who don't know?
Yeah, so SDE stands for seller discretionary earnings. It's basically on your income statement or your P&L, profit and loss statement. So there's a few different things on the P&Ls. You know, you start with revenue, then you've got all your expenses, you get operating profit, then you got some more things that you take off, then you get net profit or net income. SDE is basically net profit with some things that we've added back on, like the example I gave, which is expenses. We're trying to get to the value, like in a year, what's the value that the business is giving out, and net income doesn't quite encompass all of that, because you need to add back in things like expenses that's not necessary for the business to function. Like, we can add that back in. So those are some examples. But we will build all of that out. As a seller, you don't need to do that. So yeah, so that's basically how the valuation works. And then from a seller's point of view, the things that you need to know, or you need to get on top of. So a few different things. So one is your P&L. You don't need to understand all the terms on it, but it's good to have that ready. And you know, a lot of sellers won't know how to do that themselves. If you don't have an accountant, like, go out and start working with an accountant. There's lots of really great accountants aimed directly at e-commerce businesses. So just do a Google. Like, it depends on where in the world you are, but you know, they're based everywhere. So make sure that you have an accountant who can get on top of your financials, create the P&L for you. Also understand your historical performance. So it depends how long you've been around as a business, but typically, you know, for us, we would want to understand your historical performance over the last few years, to understand what the trends are. Have you had good, bad years? You know, just to understand that. So it'd be good to have that ready as well. Outside of those sort of hard financials, there's a few other things as well, which I guess technically aren't financials, but are still very important figures to understand. So things like SKU count, variations of the SKU count. So a lot of acquirers will have like a ceiling on the number of SKUs that are the ideal number of SKUs that they'd like a business to have when they go to buy it. The reason for that is, if you've got, you know, hundreds of SKUs, there's a lot of supply chain complexity. Then also, what would be good to understand is how much of your revenue is Amazon versus off Amazon, because a lot of businesses will sell off Amazon as well. And then also understand how much of your on Amazon business is split between FBA, FBM, which is fulfilled by merchant, and SFP. So those kind of things, high level information, is really good to have prepped before your first call. And the only thing I would add probably to that is trends. So understandably, you know, especially with things like, you know, COVID and all the supply chain complexities that are happening in the last few months, there are going to be up and down months and up and down years that you have as a seller. It's really good to be upfront and transparent about that. I wouldn't worry about putting somebody off by saying that you've had a bad year or a bad month. They're going to see that anyway when they're looking at the data eventually. But if someone's actually genuinely interested in buying your business, they'll be willing to look past that. And if it's put them off, they're not the right buyer for you anyway. So be transparent about ups and downs you've had. Why has there been a down? Maybe you're out of stock, and explain that. And then that does two things. One, it reassures people who are looking to buy your business that you have a good understanding of your business. And two, they can come up with solutions, or they can work with you to come up with a solution for if you're on a down or if you're on up. So those are the key points I would make on financial side.
Related question. Let's say someone makes, of course, everybody makes a lot of sales in Q4. So does it mean that they shouldn't sell business before Q4? They better wait for these bigger numbers in January. They will reassess, and then they will sell business in January. How you deal with these numbers?
Well, if you just look at the numbers, the offers are given out typically based on last 12 months SDE, a multiple of that. So it doesn't matter what the timing is. There's always, Q4 is always going to be included in that. So yeah, from a numbers point of view, I don't think it really makes a difference. I would say it comes down to when works for you personally, and from a business point of view, when it works for the business. So if it's the right time and you can't scale your business anymore, you don't have the resources or the funding to be able to compete with some of the, a lot of the aggregators are buying a lot of businesses. It's tough to compete. Or if, personally it's the right time for you to sell, I think I think you should go down those routes rather than sort of thinking tactically about, is it before Q4, after Q4? The only thing I would say though, if you are selling during Q4 or prior to Q4, Q4 is the busiest time of year for all sellers. So if you are doing that, then make sure that you've planned that out well so that it's not going to impact on your actual business performance, because you don't want to sort of shoot yourself in the foot by going through a sales process parallel to a tough Q4. Because Q4 is, for most businesses I've ever worked with, Q4 is roughly 50% of revenue for the year.
And how do you deal with some business decisions by Amazon brands? Let's say 3 months ago, they got their products, they started to source much cheaper. So now in the last 3 months, their sourcing costs are much lower. Are you taking this in considerations for the 12 months backwards, or because from now on, the price for sourcing will be the same. But in the first 9 months, the sourcing price was much higher.
I think that we would consider it. You wouldn't necessarily see it like directly in the multiple number. We'd probably look at that when we go through due diligence. So typically what happens is upfront you do due diligence for a short amount of time, and then you submit an offer, and then after the seller selects, or you negotiate an offer and seller accepts an offer, then you go into exclusivity. So as a seller, you're only dealing with one acquirer, and then you go into deep due diligence. So it can be a few weeks, and that's when we will ask the questions about sourcing and trying to understand how much the cost of sourcing is, what your inventory management looks like. So I don't think it would necessarily materially change the offer price, unless we're talking about crazy sort of anomaly numbers.
Okay. All right. We move on to the step 3.
So preparing your business for scalability. So to scale your business. Now, I'd say from all the businesses that I've spoken with, the number one reason that people want to sell their business is because they've got to a point where they feel they can't scale it any further. So what that means is that you've got to a point where either you don't have the time or you don't have the resources. By resources, it can mean financing, but it can also mean people, to be able to take it to the next level and compete with some of the larger players on the market. So counterintuitively, this is not a bad thing, because it actually represents an opportunity for anyone who's looking to invest in your business or buy your business. So I think what we would look for is somebody has a good understanding of what they can do to scale their business. What areas in your business are not automated at the moment, that if you had the time and the money, you would try and automate. So an example of this, we were speaking to a seller based in Florida recently. They were 100% FBA, and they sourced their products from China, direct from manufacturer straight into Florida, and they would send it into an Amazon fulfillment center. But what they were doing was, because of the restock limit changes that happened over the last year, that people don't. It's not easy to go direct from manufacturer to the FC like you used to be able to, the Amazon FC. Most sellers now work with warehouses in between. So they deliver from the manufacturer straight into the warehouse, and then from that warehouse into the Amazon fulfillment center. But this seller, they didn't have a warehouse. They just did this out of their own home. So they deliver direct from manufacturer to their house, and then from their house into the Amazon fulfillment center, which obviously we wouldn't be doing that, because we've got relationships with 3PLs across the US and Europe and stuff. So that's an example of if they had the resources, they would use a 3PL. So think about what are the areas of your business where you could use more automation. And there's lots of places where you can do this. Maybe on the PPC side, the creative side. I mean, there's so much. But it's good to list these out and have an idea of if you were to buy my business, these are the 3 or 4 key things that you could do pretty quickly to scale the business up. And I just can't do right now because I don't have the time or the resources to do it. So I can move on to the next one, which is working on your pitch. Remember that as much as you need to understand how your business works, and an acquirer is there to understand how your business works. You're also trying to sell your business, so make sure that you, alongside all the things we've just spoken about, you understand them well. But there's a few different things that acquirers will really be interested in, and it relates slightly to what I was speaking about before. They're interested in opportunities for what they can do to grow your business. So, what is your competitive advantage as a business? And some examples of this can be you've got a really differentiated brand, you've got a high review mode, so thousands of reviews. You're high up in the rankings in your category. Maybe you've got trademarks or IP. So these are examples that anyone trying to buy your business would really love, because it shows that you've got an advantage versus some of your competition. And then secondly, also growth opportunities. So what are the opportunities? Maybe it's geographic growth opportunities. Maybe it's new product launches. Like what are the opportunities that exist that you haven't been able to do so far? And then I think some questions that people are a bit always surprised by, but I think anyone who's genuinely interested in buying a business would want to understand is what inspired you to start your business. Why are you looking to sell it? Everyone has their own story. So make sure that you've prepped for that a little bit. And then the other thing I would say is on product launches, have an idea of what products you're going to be launching. Maybe the next sort of 5 or 10 products that you're going to be launching over the next year or two. Because as an acquirer, their acquirers are going to be launching products, and it's in your interest to communicate that with them so that they can either launch those products based on your expertise, or maybe not take that advice and launch something else. But it's good to communicate that with them and be transparent.
Perfect. Let's do the step 5.
Cool. So step 5, last step. We've actually sort of almost covered this a little bit when in Lisette's question earlier, but this is about preparing your questions. So going back to what I was saying, always ask questions and have them prepared beforehand. Write them down. That first conversation, you're also trying to understand the person on the other side of the table or on the call. This is a business that you need to qualify. Given the earn-out component that we mentioned before, you won't be working directly with them, but these people are going to be running your business, the thing that you've spent ages building, putting together. You're going to be working directly with them. So you need to like them. You need to understand. You need to see that they have a good understanding of the category, and they've got experience of running a business before, at the very least. So make sure that you ask questions on that. Also ask what levers are they going to pull to grow your business. I think it's easy to get clouded by sort of the cash offer. What the price is, and that's totally understandable. This is your exit opportunity, but that's not the only factor that you should. If it were me, then I would be looking for, because, as I said, there's the earn-out component, but also something you've spent so long building. You want to make sure that it grows, and it should be the business you sell to should be somebody who's able to run your baby well, instead of sort of running into the ground. So that's what I would recommend.
So when you have a call, do you just the first call? You just have like 30-minute call, hello, goodbye, and we will meet again with this and this information, or you would like them sellers to be ready, I don't know, with some printouts or some to be ready to share the screen of the Amazon account, or how do you do it?
No, I mean, first call is really it's an introductory call for you to get, so for the acquirer to get to know you to get to know the acquirer. If I as a seller, I would be a bit uncomfortable if somebody said to me, hey, share your Seller Central dashboard, go and business reports, all this stuff. I mean, I think that's probably probably the wrong way to approach it. It's really just to get to know each other. But if the conversation sort of develops a bit, like have the high level information maybe on your financials in the back of your mind, because if it doesn't come up in the first call, certainly in the first couple of conversations, or within the first few days, they are going to ask for it if they're interested in buying your business. So it's just good to have that ready. But the things I would have prepped, the questions that you want to ask them, what the competitive advantage, that's the pitch I was talking about, point 4, competitive advantage, growth opportunities that you have for your business, how you'd scale it, and then just use the conversation to get to know them, and you're qualifying them as much as they're looking into your business.
All right. So basically, take it easy for the first call. It's not like a job interview.
No, not at all. I mean, this is more just. I know I mentioned at the beginning this is how to prepare for the first call. I guess it's actually more a holistic way how to just prepare for sale. But I think this is all super useful information to have, whether you're selling your business or not. I think it's just useful to know all of this anyway. But yeah, I just want sellers to not go into these conversations with acquirers just blind, and not knowing how to represent themselves in those conversations. But no, ultimately, you can have a first call. It could just be a normal conversation, just getting to know the person. It varies from call to call. Depends on the people you're talking to.
I see we have a question from Lotta. I didn't understand 100%, but she says, I would like to sell who makes a purchase agreement. Do I need a solicitor when I sell, or prefer a broker? I can imagine there is always some kind of agreement when there is a transaction. It's not that you would just transfer money, 1 million.
Yeah. So, any large acquirer, has, NDAs that you sign up front so that, all the information stays, isn't shared with anybody else. And then when it gets to the actual offer, there's an agreement that's signed. There will all be, all large acquirers will have lawyers that have already put these together. And then there are lawyers that work on behalf of sellers as well. So Google them, you can find them. But it would never be something that you need to put together yourself. There will be standard ones that acquirers will have. Yeah,
just important, read before you sign.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely.
Okay, very good. So can sellers also ask aggregators to show brands that they have already purchased or acquired?
Yeah, I think I think that's a perfectly reasonable question to ask. So I'm sure certainly for us, we've got some on our website. Like on your first call, feel free to. You should probably do your research on the acquirer before if you're going direct to them. And then if they're in the category that you've sold into, then ask them questions about what they've done with their business before. I think it's perfectly reasonable to ask that question.
Okay, very good. So I have an interesting question over here as well. So what are usually the factors that usually decrease the value of an FBA business? So what are the things sellers shouldn't do?
Could be lots of things here. I would say if you're talking about sort of monetary value, if you're just looking at the numbers, a lower SDE means that the offer value is going to be lower, and that all comes down from revenue and costs, right? So if your revenue is low and your costs are super high, then you're going to have a lower SDE. I would say, that's the key thing. Those are the most important things. I would also say, if there's not like a brand to the business, there are a lot of businesses I've seen on Amazon where they sell thousands of different products, and it's sort of a bit of everything. They're resellers. Resellers are certainly across Amazon. It's much more difficult to be a reseller now than it was 3, 4, 5 years ago. It's really moving towards brands, and as a reseller, you don't really have a brand. You're selling on behalf of someone. So I would say that's quite an important one. So you need to have a brand. You need to be at least brand registered. I would say if you don't have like trademarks, that can be an important one. It depends on the product you're selling. That can be an important one. But yeah, ultimately it comes down to sort of the numbers. So low revenue, high costs.
But just to clarify, like under the brand, do you mean having a trademark? or do you mean more like a bigger brand, like a known brand, brand presence on Amazon or off Amazon?
Yeah, that's a good question. A bit of both, but the most important one is being brand registered. And in order to be brand registered, you need to have a trademark. So in order to go through the brand registry on Amazon, by marketplace, you need to have trademarks. So I would say that's the most important thing, because ultimately, when somebody's buying an Amazon business, they're buying the real estate on Amazon, right? So they're buying the listing, they're buying the reviews, and they're buying the customer reviews, the rating of the product. They're buying space on the website basically. So if you're not brand registered, somebody else can just come on your listing and sell the same product. So that's key. On the other point about having a brand, it's great if you've got a brand on Amazon that is differentiated. It's super difficult to do that on Amazon. If you've got like an Instagram account, TikTok account with lots of followers, that's great because that's going to drive traffic to Amazon. And the way that PPC works on Amazon, if you're driving traffic from outside onto Amazon, the algorithm pushes your product higher up in the searches. So that's really good to have. But I'd say the most important one is being brand registered.
Mm-hmm. Okay, very good. Thanks for clarifying that. Okay, so we have one question from our viewer right now as well. So hello from Finland. Hi. If a transaction of accounts in EU might be a problem, also VAT issues seems to be complicated.
The VAT issues I'm less familiar with, so I don't know exactly what the question is he's referring to. But on the transition of accounts in EU, yeah, I mean, I think this is difficult. But I think for us actually, given that most of us worked in Amazon EU, and we're UK based, we have a very good understanding of how to transition accounts across. I think it's a fair question to also ask actually, in your conversation with an acquirer. What's your experience of, if you're if you're an EU based business, what's your experience of transitioning accounts across the EU? It works slightly different in the UK versus the EU. So it is, if it's a large acquirer and they've got experience from buying these businesses before, they will have a checklist of things that they know they have to do, and they can run you through it. So yeah, it's a good question to ask up front.
Mm-hmm. Okay, very good.
All right. Yeah, thank you very much, Nish. And if someone is interested to sell their brand and they want to go directly to an aggregator, you're welcome to contact Olsam through olsamgroup.com. Probably we'll talk with Nish directly. I don't know who is taking the calls.
I take some of them. So yeah, there's a good chance you'll speak with me.
Yeah. Can you give us an overview on what kind of businesses are you looking at?
Yeah, sure. So typically we look at Amazon FBA businesses. So yeah, if you're selling on Amazon, doesn't matter where you're based, where you're selling, like we'll look at any location really. Kind of businesses we like category wise, we look at pretty much all categories except for like perishables, some apparel, and some sort of complex electronics. And the type of businesses we like are sort of what we were going through before actually. Businesses that have a good review mode, have a high product ranking, like ranked high within their specific category. That's really great. And also if you've got IP, trademarks, things like that, growth opportunities, we look for that competitive advantage in businesses. And also on the financial side, typically we look at businesses making $1 million in revenue and higher. That doesn't mean that if you're making less than 1 million that we wouldn't talk to you. 100%, we're very keen to speak to all businesses. We're not just there to acquire businesses. We're very keen to sort of give like everything that we've learned from our time at Amazon and running our Amazon businesses. We're very keen to speak with you. If you've got any questions, we'll give advice on these calls. But yeah, typically we look at businesses making more than 1 million a year, competitive advantage, good review modes in those categories that I mentioned before.
All right. There is Rosie giving us a comment that it's a very informative session. She's happy. and she's interested to sell her Amazon FBA or national. I don't know if it's Amazon or, but UK business. I have trademark registered, but my situation is kind of complicated. Do you want to talk to her? Do you think you can?
Happy to, yeah. Just
help with complicated issues.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the issue is she's referring to, but yeah, I'm happy to have a chat with Rosie. So if you contact us via the website, you can actually schedule a call in direct with somebody instead of going through the contact form in the bottom right hand corner on the contact us page. So yeah, feel free to contact us. We're happy to chat.
Yeah, actually, here is
or
also.
You can email me as well. That's my email address. Sam is one of the co-founders. That's his email address.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, it's maybe a bit small in letters, but Nish at olsamgroup.com. Perfect. So let me mention important thing that this session is part of the KLIK Box promotion, where we have negotiated deals with more than 20 different Amazon-related services, tools, and Olsam is an aggregator as well. So each of these companies, they have something special, at least $300 value offered in the KLIK Box package. At the moment, this package is about $200. The price is increasing. You will find the link below to KLIK Box, also to Olsam Group as well. And inside the KLIK Box package, Olsam is offering additional consultation, which is more in depth. Could you, Nish, give us a little bit more information what you're offering?
Yep. So as part of KLIK Box, we're offering a free business evaluation, and what that means is this is a holistic overview of your business. If you've got any questions, about advertising or how to operate your brand, maybe supply chain, we'll schedule in a 45-minute conversation with you, and we'll go through any questions you have in detail. It's not focused on selling your business, so if you're not interested in selling your business, that's fine. Reach out to us. There's a link in there. There's a link to a form where we ask a few questions up front so we can prepare for the conversation, basically understand size of your business, what do you sell on Amazon, off Amazon, supply chain, or like a few different questions. It doesn't take long to fill out, less than 5 minutes. And then we'll reach out to you to put in some time.
Yes, so it's basically like a free consultation with people who maybe they are not, how to say, they have different background, like maybe someone will have financial background, or so they can look at your business through different perspective. So Rosie says she joined the program, maybe a KLIK Box program. I'm not sure exactly. She says thanks. She will contact Olsam. Igor says thanks for the info and insights. Thank you very much, Nish.
Thanks, Augustus. Thanks, Lisette, for having me. Really enjoyed the session, and I think the whole week has been great as well. So we're very proud to sponsor the summit as well.
Yeah.
And now I guess it's a good time to watch a short video of Olsam as well, which we have prepared. So tune in and let's have a see.
Ready? So I'm sometimes asked, what's it like going from working for Amazon in their marketplace team to co-founding a business with your brother that acquires category-leading brands created by amazing entrepreneurs in the midst of a global pandemic?
Today, Londoners have woken up to a very different city with up to 40 tube stations closed.
Olsam started with just Sam and I, quite literally working from our bedrooms. But since then, the Olsam team has grown rapidly. We pay life-changing amounts of money to acquire category-leading brands created by super talented solopreneurs all around the world.
From US sellers looking to expand to Europe,
我们帮助中国的公司搬进去欧洲还美国
oder einem europäischen Seller, der einfach auf der Suche ist nach einem erfahrenen Partner, der die internationale Expansion beschleunigen kann.
The trend to spend online is growing fast.
They find a lucrative niche, they source a quality product, and then they pour blood, sweat, and tears into building an international e-commerce brand, often with basically no external support.
And that's where Olsam comes in. Aside from being sellers ourselves, what makes us truly unique in this space is over 2 decades of experience within Amazon's marketplace, allowing us to develop a unique brand playbook which we use to grow sellers exponentially.
It's really great hearing feedback from sellers who are like, you've completely transformed my listings, or I really wanted to try that strategy but never really knew how. Their brands become something bigger and better than maybe even they thought possible.
Central to Olsam is our people. Sellers entrust us with their baby because we built up a team with unrivaled expertise.
Backed by incredible investors, we're building the next generation consumer goods company, powered by technology and some of the brightest minds in the world of e-commerce. And we're just getting started.
Olsam is just getting started and we are just finishing. Thank you very much. And if you need, if you want to sell your business, contact Olsam. If you want to get consultation with smart people from Olsam, buy the KLIK Box and get their consultation for free for 5 minutes. And thank you very much, Nish. Thank you very much, Lisette. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Guys.
And now I would like to invite you to watch other video with Norm Farrar, where he gives tips how to increase conversions on your Amazon product listings in Q4. So he gives some collection of different tips which can improve your sales. And you will sell your Amazon business for more money.